Pardon?
I go first. I went first last time.
I know, but if you end up doing 4, then you don't do. Then you go you, me, you, me, you, me, you, and
See, for everyone at home, they're just hearing us going back and
Whereas-
forth about the boring things
Whereas
about podcasts.
if I go first
Uh-huh.
and you decide to do all 4 of yours, then you'll have to do 2 in a row.
I'm leaving all this in. Not
So you
listening.
should go first.
Everyone at home, I'm not listening. to
Hello,
this.
welcome to Echo on a True Crime Podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Christian.
Today we are doing crime and politicians.
Criminal politicians, crimes
If we-
with polyps.
if we did criminal
polyps,
Polyps. Crimes and polyps.
Criminal polyps.
If we did crimes and political crimes and politicians or crimes,
Brexit.
we'd be here all year.
Yeah, we are basically steering the fuck clear of things like, I don't know, Hitler. For
Yeah.
any genocidal ones,
We haven't done Pol Pot, Hitler.
No, there's no
Stalin.
dictators like that. We're actually talking about people who have been in the political arena who have done smaller, more actual crimes. Not like crimes on behalf of the office.
No, we might do one of those later. I'd like to do.
Yeah,
I'd like to cover some of those.
I'd like
actually.
to do a Pol Pot one.
I would
because
really like to do a Pol
I
Pot
know
one.
fuck all about Pol Pot. Really?
Other than it was like a bit of a chorus on Holiday in Cambodia.
Yeah,
by Dead
basically
Kennedys.
that was really.
I've had a holiday in Cambodia.
Oh, did you kill anyone while you were there?
I didn't
Well,
know.
then we're not going to talk about it on
but
the
I
podcast.
did see bones in the ground from where people had been killed.
Yeah.
I
You
did.
brought that joke down.
No,
Fucking
it
hell,
wasn't
mate.
a joke. I was telling the truth.
Yeah. Well, this is basically so this is
Yeah.
episode 20 blah blah, and crime. I don't know what to call this one. I can't call it crimes in politics or just
Crimes and politicians and crimes.
politicians and crimes.
Something
That's
like
what
that.
it'll be called. I always struggle to what to call these things because
Yeah.
sometimes they're easy. They're easy to say what they're called, but the ones like this, they go. It's like the kids one. You can't say crimes in kids.
Crimes in kids. It would
Like,
be
no.
more noncery, and we don't want to.
We're steering
Also,
clear of the
we've steered
nonsense.
clear. I haven't got any nonsense.
I have not got any nonsense.
There we go.
Basically, we're trying our best now to say we've done enough noncery
Say
in
no-
our episodes.
Say no to nonsense.
Say no to nonsense. And to be
Hashtag
fair,
no to nonsense. At least for a while, as some palate
and
cleansers.
I'm sure all of you, palate cleansers. No kids, but prostitutes. Why not? I mean, really, there's no.
No.
It's just how much we can handle.
A poor
to talk
choice
about.
of words.
Yeah, I know.
So go on, Christian.
Oh, I'm starting.
Why don't you go first?
My one is
Normally bloody do anyway.
Yeah, my first one is actually Robert Bud Dwyer. He was a politician. He was from Pennsylvania. He became active in local politics, and in 1964, he ran as a Republican. He was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives and served there until 1970. Then he set his sights, though, on a higher office, and he ran for the state office for the Pennsylvania Treasurer in 1980, and he won. And re-election to the seat 4 years later. At the same time that this was happening, and he was actually becoming the treasurer.
The what?
The treasurer.
Oh,
What did I say?
the treasurer.
The treasurer. When he was becoming the treasurer, he in Pennsylvania, he was becoming the treasurer. At the same time, when he was becoming the treasurer,
That's what that word is now.
it is. The Pennsylvania officials discovered that there were some irregularities, and it's completely separate to that, and some state workers had overpaid millions in federal insurance contributions. Due to errors with the state withholding and things, all boring stuff. But then to fix this, they did a tender out for several accountancy firms across the country competing for this basically multi-million-dollar contract to determine the compensation to be paid to each employee. Very boring side story, but the contract was eventually awarded to a California-based firm called Computer Technology Associates, who were owned by somebody from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Bear in mind, Bud Dwyer was from Pennsylvania and was a senator there. Months after the contract was awarded, Pennsylvania Governor Dick Thornburg He received an anonymous letter detailing the allegations of bribery that took place during that bidding process
Yes.
for the contract, and named Bud Dwyer as one of the people receiving a kickback from the deal for getting the Pennsylvania owned Computer Technology Associates the contract.
Okay.
So he was basically it was like
Yeah, I mean, that's not unusual
Yeah.
or unheard of, at least in politics.
It was-
They paid some money to a politician and he gave them preferential treatment in...
so but enraged by the allegations,
Yes.
fucking furious, he denied. Of course, that's I say that as a bad thing. They all deny it. Everyone denies it, and they maintain their innocence.
Did they do the Shaggy defense?
Yeah.
It wasn't me. Is that
Well,
is that voice inappropriate? I don't think it is, but
Well, he puts it on.
it wasn't me. It's true.
Nevertheless, of all the protesting, him and several others were eventually charged. But this is quite an important part of the case. In a show of leniency, the federal prosecutor were willing to cut him a deal.
His bud.
Cut by a deal. And all he had to do was plead guilty to a single charge of bribe receiving and resign from the office. And of course, fully cooperate with the rest of the investigation.
Yeah.
And that only carried a 5-year prison sentence. Nothing, really, compared to what he could have got. He basically turned down the deal, believing his innocence would be proven at trial.
Yep.
However, December the 18th, 1986, he was found guilty of 11 counts of conspiracy, mail fraud, perjury, interstate transportation in aid of racketeering, and perjury. He faced a sentence of up to 55 years in prison and a fine of $300,000.
That's quite a lot more than what he would have. He almost could have taken. They called me racketeering. It wasn't me.
And some perjury.
It wasn't me.
Could have done some mail fraud.
It wasn't me.
But his sentencing was scheduled for January 23rd, 1987.
I found this really funny then. I just need a second.
But then on January the 22nd, the day before his sentencing was scheduled,
Yep.
he met with 2 of his staff in his home.
Yep.
And wanted to weigh up his options.
Mhm.
And they did. They told him everything. And after that, he contemplated his future and wrote on a piece of paper basically just some thoughts, and it was later found by his family. It said, "I enjoy being with Jo so much," his wife.
Okay.
The next 20 years or so would have been wonderful. Tomorrow is going to be so difficult, and I hope I can go through with it. And the next day, the next morning, the press conference in Harrisburg was being prepared. Bear in mind, he was going to get sentenced later that day.
Yep. So they were given an opportunity to address the press.
Yeah,
before
basically,
sentencing.
and he did. He read a pre-prepared statement
and went, "I'm really sorry for everything I've done. I did actually do all of those things I've done, and I'm going to take. The reason I didn't take the plea bargain is actually I'm going to take the time that they hand down to me, and whatever punishment they give to me, I'm going to accept it as an upstanding man, as a citizen, as a representative, as a politician, as a man of great moral." Character and standing, because I did something wrong and I deserve to pay the price. So all of you people, you see what happens if you do wrong.
No, he didn't.
No.
He basically got to the final page of his pre-prepared speech and went off script.
Wasn't me.
And this is what he told the audience. It's quite long, but I'll say it anyway. "I've repeatedly said that I'm not going to resign as state treasurer. After many hours of thought and meditation, I've made a decision that should not be an example to anyone because it is unique to my situation. Last May, I told you that after the trial, I will give you the story of the decade. To those of you who were shallow, the events of this morning will be their story. But to those of you with depth and concern, the real story will be what I hope and pray the results from this morning in the coming months and years, the development of the true justice system here in the USA." Echo, stop it. She's just trying to butt in and say, "No, I want to read it out." She's not reading. But then he carried on. "I am going to die in office in an effort to see if the shameful facts spread out in all of their shame and will not burn through our civic shamelessness and set fire to the American pride." I don't actually understand.
I don't really understand what he's saying.
He was. Well, to be fair, there was a reason why he was a bit.
Was he a little bit stressed?
Yeah. "Please tell my story on every radio station and every TV station and in every newspaper and magazine in the United States. Please leave immediately if you have a weak stomach or a mind, since I don't want to cause physical or mental distress. Joanne, Rob, Dee Dee, I love you. Thank you for making my life so happy. goodbye to you all on a count of 3. Please make sure that the sacrifice of my life is not in vain. And with that, and in front of many video cameras, he pulled out a .357 Magnum revolver. Everyone in the room started panicking, screaming, "No, bud, no!" And like everyone was trying to run out the room. He was trying to calm them down, saying, "Look, no, it's fine, it's fine. Don't worry, no one's getting hurt. No one's getting hurt. But don't stop this. Don't stop this." And turned the gun on himself and blew his brains out. Frederick Cusick, the journalist and friend of Dwyer's, who was sitting in the front row to cover the story, told the LA Times later that he should have run and grabbed him when he pulled out the envelope where he pulled the gun from, because I knew exactly what it was. People frantically yelled for him to stop, and they tried to disarm him, but the video of this is freely available all over. It is fucking hideous, but it is fascinating. The calmness and care he had for other people's safety and worrying about what they might think. But knowing there was a greater message to be had. It went down at the time as being a very, very disgusting bit of exploitation.
Like a fart in a lift.
Yeah, basically. And a number of Pennsylvania television stations showed edited footage of the suicide because it was on live news.
I reckon. Oh no, this happened. When did this happen again? In the 70s,
87,
80s. So I was very, very young when it originally happened. But this is probably the first video of death
I ever saw
that I think I've ever seen was the really little short clip of him doing the deed.
The way they actually showed this on normal television stations was they showed the footage prior to the gunshot, but then froze it just before and then let the audio run over.
Yes, that's what that's what I would have seen when I was younger.
The Philadelphia station WPVI rebroadcast the suicide footage in full without warning to viewers on their 5 and 6 p.m. broadcasts.
Well done. Fuck you, 5 and...
The station's broadcast is responsible for all the videos that you've seen because they're all from that that thing.
That was the only uncut version of it ever.
There was one in Harrisburg station WHTM-TV opted to broadcast it uncut, not once but twice as well, defending the decision by citing the important nature of the story. Many kids and adults in the surrounding area were home due to a massive snowstorm, so saw the video.
You know what? As you were saying that, I just remembered that I knew that. If you know what I mean, I completely forgotten that there was. It couldn't have been much worse.
As a little addition to this, Richard Patrick, frontman of the band Filter.
Yeah, I thought his name was familiar.
I saw the raw footage of this in a 2012 interview, he said. I'm from the suburbs, and I don't remember seeing a lot of things like that growing up. When you're 22 and you see that, you're like, wow. There was no internet to watch death on and things. You can see anything on the internet now. Back then, we were watching it out of fascination of like, wow, we're all going to die. There was a morbid curiosity. I was watching it, and I just said, hey, man, nice shot. Which is where their song is from. But the kicker to this, the biggest kicker to all this, because most people think that's where the story ends. In 2012, there was a feature documentary called Honest Man, The Life of R. Bud Dwyer.
Yep.
It premiered quite, in Pennsylvania with the Dwyer family in attendance. Why would it do that? Well, because William Smith, former chairman of the Republican Committee and one of the key trial witnesses, admits he lied under oath about him taking bribes.
So he didn't
being involved. Had fuck all to do with it.
He didn't fucking do it?
Nope.
I did not know that bit of the story.
No, he basically said that in hopes of reducing his own sentence and spare his wife from being prosecuted for her role in the conspiracy. He expressed regret for lying and the role it played in his death. Literally the reason.
It was the reason he killed himself. The reason he didn't get to live out his life with his wife and kids that he loved so much.
And he was being tried. I mean, he was... nobody knows if he was going to be found guilty.
Yeah.
We don't know. But...
He was obviously a very principled man. That's horrible.
But he did this one thing that actually happened, but good because of this. Because he died while in office...
Yep.
His family still got his pension.
Oh, good.
Whereas if he waited till after, they would have taken his pension away. So they reckon
he probably knew that, and that's why he...
Oh, and his pension and his benefits from being in office were totaled $1.28 million. So, yeah.
It took the pressure off his family.
So he was saying, I have no choice.
Yeah.
And for a man like that who was all about his family, I can see 100%.
Absolutely, 100%. Oh, that's horrible. What was the name of the guy that lied?
William T. Smith, motherfucking
William T.
cunt.
Smith, you're a cunt.
Yep.
Cunt.
I'm sorry, I've banged on for quarter of an hour because that was a very in-depth story, and it's not really, when you say crimes, it was a crime.
Oh, there was crimes involved.
There was crimes involved. He didn't do it. He was the victim. And it angers me because for years I just knew it as that grotesque video.
Yeah.
Without realizing
I didn't know he was innocent.
Poor guy was fucking innocent. I always thought also, knowing that, because I didn't listen to the words he said in the video running up to it. It's like, he's killed himself. Oh my God. And I didn't listen to what he was saying.
No.
I had no idea that. I thought, well, he's obviously a paedophile or he killed someone.
Right. I knew he was a disgraced politician, but I thought he was a disgraced politician. I thought he'd got himself caught up in just
bad scandal.
In bad scandal, and like just was rinsed loads of money and just being a pussy.
No, so after that,
well, I feel a shit.
Well, you do now, but now you know. Bud Dwyer, rest in peace.
Lawrence Shirley, 1760.
Oh, and that's not how old he is. He's not like a
no, he's not biblical.
Okay.
So Lawrence Shirley, he was the fourth Alferez.
The what now?
He's the only the fourth Alferez. It's an old
Alferez.
Yeah, Ferrers, nobleman and peer.
Okay.
So he was a peer, so a lord basically. He was a peer, so he's political because back then they obviously did everything.
Yeah.
And he is the last peer to ever be hanged in England.
Oh.
Ooh. So he's the fourth Alferez. He was. I'm going to start. I'm going to read this article that I got from the BritishExecutions.co.uk.
Wait, there's a site called what?
BritishExecutions.co.uk. I didn't know that existed
well,
until.
To be fair, that's very specific, but it does what it says on the tin.
Yeah. So here it says he's the only peer to have ever been hanged for murder. Elsewhere it says he's the final one. I mean, if he's the only, he's the only, then he's one. It's true one way, not necessarily the other. So apparently, Lord Ferrers came from an ancient family of nobles and had a Plantagenet blood in his veins.
So what was that word?
Plantagenet.
What the fuck does that mean?
Plantagenet.
He's got plants in him.
No, it's.
He's got flowers bursting out of his.
Before I say this, I'm gonna make sure I get it right.
I know it's fine. Plantagenet. What? Who writes words like this?
That's the Plantagenets were they were the royal house of England and reigned from 1154 to 1485 and provided 14 kings.
So it's like Windsor, basically, the equivalent of. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. So it was the house.
Oh, cool.
So so he had royal blood.
Blue blood.
I would imagine a gene pool so shallow you would bang your head on the bottom if you dove in. Dove in.
Yeah.
So he Lord Ferrers.
Echo.
Lawrence Shirley, as he was born.
You can hear my dog whining again. Sorry to interrupt, but if you hear that, we're not beating our dog up. She's just being a little dick and trying to go outside when she's been outside a minute ago.
So Lawrence was born in 1720, and he was brought up with all the advantages that belonging to an aristocratic family would allow you.
I imagine a bit of money.
Which in the 1720s and the 1800s would be substantially better than everyone else.
We basically wanted for nothing.
And he was
crime.
The last nobleman to be hanged in Britain. Apparently, as he grew older, he developed a taste for drink. He liked to booze or two.
I don't know what that's like.
And this is, I don't know, I know I'm reading this how this is written, and it's not in quotation marks, but I must be a quote. When he was sober, he was a fine fellow, but when he was in his cups, he became a brute with a tendency to violence.
When he was in his cups?
Yeah, which I'm going to use from now on when I'm drinking.
So, Chris, what are you doing? I'm in my cups.
I'm in my cups. Sorry if I called you a cunt last night. I was in my cups.
Oh, that is a great phrase.
Yeah.
Oh, I like it. Anyway, yes, he was...
Done your mum last night. I was like, I had like 12 cups. She's a 12 cupper.
Oh, that could be taken so many ways.
And so here's here's some things that he had done before he did the final act before he was found guilty of something. So one day apparently he was beaten in a horse race, so he thrashed his groom unconscious.
So he lost the race.
So I imagine he was beaten in a horse race. I'd imagine he owned the horse or whatever. And
not like he was riding it.
No. I would assume not, but maybe I know. Actually, you know what? No, you're probably right. I'm reading it again.
Who knows? Yeah, so
so he probably
beat his
and the groom,
the
guy that looks after, he beat them unconscious. On another occasion, this fine, upstanding gentleman.
He sounds lovely.
Prime example of English noble.
What did he do?
Blood.
What did he do?
He stabbed a servant for refusing to perjure himself and say that the barrel of oysters had been bad when they had been delivered.
Can you slow down and say
Yeah,
that
I will.
again?
I'm going to say it again.
So
I said it quickly the first time so you get an overview.
So
a servant, he
stabbed him.
He told a servant, told a servant, can you say this barrel of oysters was bad when they got here?
And the guy said,
no.
He said perjure.
He said, I'm not going to perjure them.
Was this in court?
It must have gone to court because they were court. So he stabbed him. He then
probably got away with it as well.
He then beat him unconscious with a candlestick. And
wait, not even a candlestick holder, an actual candlestick.
I don't know. I think it's the same thing.
I was about to say an actual candlestick.
I think
that would break.
No, I think the candlestick is
unless it's a church candlestick.
Maybe, but yeah. So we'll go back because there's another bit to add to this.
No, I want to stay on this candlestick.
No, but it's the same. This is the same act.
Okay, fair enough.
So he went, "Oi, servant man, tell them that the oysters were bad when they got it." It's like this.
They weren't, but
like that when they got it, sir. No, I'm not doing it. I'm not perjuring myself. Right, I'm going to stab you.
No.
Beat you with a candlestick. Then kick the man so hard in the groin that the servant was lamed for life.
Whoa. One, was this written by somebody in the 1600s?
That's why I said none of this is in quotations, but I think this must have been written around the time
for life. So
for
basically,
life.
Kicked him so hard in the dick that he was crippled.
He somehow crippled around his groinal region.
To be fair, we're talking about the 1700s. If he kicked him so hard and had like quite a solid shield, he could have cracked bones there that they wouldn't have known how to set. So he could have they would just have to leave him there going,
this is awfully uncomfortable. So yeah. So all for not perjuring himself, the man got stabbed, beaten unconscious, and kicked so hard in the groin that he was lamed for life.
Maybe
Go on.
He should have perjured himself.
Perhaps. But then maybe
it's the wrong
the Earl shouldn't have been such a wanker.
Good point. Yeah, I'll take your point.
So in 1752, he married the youngest daughter of Sir William Meredith. And apparently, it was fine originally.
Wait, what's this guy's name again? Surname? Lawrence?
So his name is
Lawrence Shirley?
Lawrence Shirley. He's also called Lord Ferrers.
And that's Meredith? Why have all these people got female surnames?
Oh, I don't know. That's really true. I don't know.
Yeah, carry on, yeah.
So everything was fine at the first. You know, at the start, as it is, you know.
Yeah.
You put on your
airs and graces.
Airs and graces, best behaviour. Try and minimise kicking servants in the groin.
I know, you've
got
to
frequently.
You've got to put down your stabbing hand and just say, not today.
Like, no, I'm just going to backhand them at most because she's all right and I don't want to...
I might slap the tip, but that's it.
That's it.
No kicking there.
Apparently, though, his darker side began to emerge. And apparently... this isn't funny. Like, this totally is not funny.
But you're laughing.
Just... the way this sentence is written. So I'm going to read it verbatim. All was well to begin with, but his darker side gradually emerged, and one day he kicked her senseless.
That makes it sound like he's just there going, oh God! And literally just kicks her for no reason.
Apparently just kicked the shit out of her. See, it wasn't funny.
When you said youngest daughter, it makes it sound like she's actually a child.
It doesn't say how old she was, but probably was young in that back in those days.
He just couldn't... unless he kicked that guy in the groin till he was crippled. Kicked her. Oh my God, he's literally got like rage foot.
He has.
Do you think it's like he had his foot amputated when he was younger and they replaced it with the foot of a murderer? And now it's like, oh no, it's got a mind of its own.
Or he had a horse leg, so whenever someone walked up behind him,
bang! I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. I can't help it.
Bang!
Oh, he had his arm. He had a stabbing arm as well.
He had
that had a horse's hoof as well, but with a knife duct tape to it.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. They didn't have duct tape at the time, but you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what happened.
It was a horse's hand, so they melted the end of it and it turned to glue, and then he just stabbed and he just attached it with.
That's exactly how it happens.
Glue hands. Oi, glue hands. Horsey glue hands.
Don't mock me.
Stab.
Just don't stand behind him.
Sorry.
Don't stand behind him or in front of him. Stab. Just stand at the side.
My groin.
I'm lamed.
For life. After 6 years, his wife left him and returned to her family.
Wait, after 6 years of kicking? He didn't stop.
Yeah, he kicked her constantly because she kept following. She couldn't keep up with him. She was constantly behind him, and he was constantly kicking her. She applied. Oh, why the long face? She applied to Parliament and received an order of maintenance. So finances basically looked after financially. It came from a separate trust and was administered by Lord Ferrers' steward, a man called John Johnson. So
his
good.
steward, not his groom.
No, his steward.
No, his groom.
He's the only one left. So basically, they had a separate trust, and Lord Ferrers' steward, John Johnson, was the one that was going to administer that money to her to make sure she was looked after. So the eldest household, they lived at Staunton Harold near Ashton de la Zouch in Leicestershire. Leicestershire.
That was a lot of words I had never heard of.
Lived in Leicestershire.
No. Leicestershire.
Yeah. And because of Johnson's duties as the receiver of the Countess's maintenance, the Earl became convinced that Johnson was plotting against him. Now, what I picture is, The Simpsons when Homer and Mr. Burns are stuck in the ski hut.
Yeah.
That's what I picture, just staring at each other, really paranoid. An army of snowmen. So John Johnson, the Earl became convinced he was getting plotted against. John Johnson lived in a house belonging to the estate. And on Sunday the 13th of January 1760, the Earl went to the Lount, which is the name of the premises where the John Johnson lived, and after a conversation with Johnson, ordered the man to come to Staunton Harold on the following Friday at 3 p.m. So on Sunday, 13th of Jan, he went to see him and was like, you're looking after my estate, you're giving the money to my ex-wife. I think we need to meet next Friday. So so the steward attended at 3 p.m. and after a short wait was called into Earl's room and the door was locked. The Earl accused the poor man of various
You, sir, are a villain!
Villainies and falsifying the accounts, accusations that were apparently quite untrue.
Oh, really?
I think they mean quite untrue, not it was a bit true.
I've got to say, this crime is so fucking English.
I know.
And they met at Staunton Harold.
Yeah. Ferrers ordered the man to kneel and to beg pardon.
Oh,
I beg your pardon, sir. I beg your pardon.
I forgive you. Don't step behind me. I blamed him.
The steward went down onto one knee, and the Earl, in a voice loud enough for the maids to hear, shouted, "Down on your other knee! Declare you have acted against Lord Ferrers!" He referred to himself in the third person. "Your time has come. You must die."
He didn't say that.
Yeah, he did. This whole thing, he went...
He said, "Your time has come."
Yeah, down... This is the quote that was reported that the maid had heard. "Down on your knee, down on your other knee. Declare you have acted against Lord Ferrers. Your time has come. You must die."
But he's just said, declare that you've done wrong. Why would he have... No,
I know.
I'm still going to die.
He produced a pistol from his pocket and shot the unfortunate steward.
Why didn't he just use his kicking hoof?
The Earl then left the room and the servant sent a messenger to fetch a doctor. Maybe he didn't want to get blood on his shoes.
On his
shoe.
Yeah, I was about to go, no, what's horse got? Yeah, shoe. Fuck. But, wow.
Apparently...
They called a doctor.
So apparently the Earl... So they went to get a doctor. Apparently the Earl had been sober when the deed had been committed, but now took to the bottle. His rage became boundless, and at one stage went to the room where the poor steward lay dying and seized him by the wig, called him a villain, and threatened to shoot him through the head.
This was fucking written with a quill, wasn't it? This
must
whole
have been.
Story.
The Earl must have then felt such remorse because he told Johnson's daughter that he would take care of the family if the steward died, so long as they didn't prosecute.
That doesn't sound like guilt. That sounds like, oh, fuck.
Oh, shit. I'm in trouble now. It's like when a kid says sorry when they're not sorry they did it. They're just sorry they're in trouble.
I'm sorry I stole it. I'm sorry.
Sorry. God.
So unfair.
Mr. Kirkland, who was a surgeon, wanted the steward removed from the house, and after the Earl had retired to his bed around midnight, they made up a sedan chair and carried Johnson back to the Lount where he lived, and he died there about 9 o'clock the next morning. So he was laying there dying.
Where was he shot? Well, he's in the chest or the belly or something.
In the room, I don't know. I don't know. A crowd of neighbours armed themselves and decided to apprehend the killer and set out for Staunton Harold. That's the place, not the person.
It does sound like a guy. I'm very Staunton.
As they entered the yard, they saw the Earl going towards the stables. When he saw them, he escaped back into the house. "No! They come to get me!" I don't know why I went a bit weird.
"Quick, to the stables!" But the only problem is he's only got one hoof, so he just runs in a circle.
After about 4 hours later, he was apprehended by a collier named Curtis as he walked on the bowling green.
Fucking English! In Staunton Harold on the bowling green with this horse-hoofed bastard.
He was armed with a blunderbuss, a brace of pistols, and a dagger, but gave himself up quietly.
That's a pistol, isn't it? A blunderbuss?
A blunderbuss is like the big, like a shotgunny kind of thing, like an old-fashioned shotgun.
Fucking blunderbuss.
A brace of pistols. I'm going to get you. Wait, I'm just having a barrel loaded. Hang on. He was taken to the local public house in Ashby, and on Monday, after a coroner's jury returned a verdict of willful murder against him, he was taken to Leicester Jail. 2 weeks later, he was taken to London and lodged in the Tower of London.
Ooh.
He spent 2 months there before he came up for trial before the House of Lords on April the 16th. His defence was one of insanity. I read that he was apparently from a long line of like insane and madness and stuff.
Really?
Probably because they just married their cousins. I think that was his cousin as well that he married.
Well, he actually was not just his cousin, but his cousin was a horse. And that runs in the family. They all have horse
runs
appendages.
in the family.
That's why a lot of the royals have huge teeth.
Yes, because they're part equine.
Part equine.
So his defence was one of insanity, but failed, and he was found guilty. He was sentenced to be hanged on Monday the 21st of April. So this was on the April the 16th. He was on trial. Monday the 21st of April, he was sentenced to be hanged on Monday the 21st, and then to be anatomized. I think that means just like cut up. I don't really know.
Wow.
In defence to his rank, the execution was postponed until Monday the 5th of May so that he might get his affairs in order. At 9 o'clock on the morning of the 5th of May, 1760, the Earl was taken from the Tower in his own landau, drawn by 6 horses.
What's a landau?
In his own like cart.
Yeah. Bring my cart. I don't want to be taken
on a 3-hour trip through the record-breaking crowds of Tyburn. Apparently hundreds of people turned out. Here, Lawrence Shirley, Lord Ferrers, was hanged. After the required 1 hour, the body was taken down and was conveyed to Surgeons' Hall, where the second part of the sentence was carried out. And so they went to Surgeons' Hall and everyone watched and he got cut up.
Took his life away from him.
Apparently, I read that because it's reported that because of his standing or whatever, he was allowed to be hanged with the silk rope.
Yeah, because that makes a big fucking difference.
I've also talked for about 15 minutes on that one.
Fucking, I'm just the horse hoof is wonderful. I love that.
Stomp, clop, stomp, clop, stomp, clop.
I'm a gentleman. Well, that was a lovely one. Thank you.
Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it.
I thought it was quite good.
This one is it's historical kind of.
No. Historical, not hysterical.
Thomas Lee, Ley, Lee, Ley.
Probably Lee.
Let's go with him.
Lee.
Basically, he was born in 1880, but he's not from.
He's not.
No, he's not Barbara. But he was born on the 28th of October, 1880, in Bath. He was the son of Henry Lee, who was a butler, and his
and the name of a song by Nick Cave.
Yes,
which is now in my head. So
I'm sorry.
That's why I like that song. It's a good song.
But yeah, his father died in 1882, and then in 1886, his mother Elizabeth migrated to Sydney with all her 4 children and her mother as well. So he was born in Bath, then moved to Sydney as a young kid. He had to earn money as a kid, so became a paper boy and a messenger. He went to public school, but his formal education ended at 10, and his mother withdrew him to assist her in running a grocery store that she bought. But his ambitions were in the law, and he worked...
Noble of him.
Oh, no, and later on he worked in a dairy farm near Windsor there, and he studied shorthand and learn how to do it, which is actually quite rare for somebody that age to learn shorthand.
Apparently, he really liked his job, but his colleagues were just a bunch of cows.
Hey!
Stupid cows.
This was before he was 14.
What the fuck?
So when he was 14, he secured an appointment as a junior clerk stenographer in Pitt Street Solicitor's Office. He was admitted as a solicitor in 13th of March, 1914. So that's when he was 34. So he was there for 20 years.
Do you have to say everything?
I do have to say it like
that.
A bit before 1914, in 1898, Thomas married Emily Louise Stone Vernon, daughter of a well-off Somerset doctor. And after marriage, she moved to Sydney as well. And they lived with the widowed Mrs. Vernon at Glebe until 1906, during which time they had 3 sons. So, normal kind of nothing weird there. Nothing going on that's a bit fucking odd. But he kept wanting to go into politics.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept losing elections for mayor.
That's a bit of a hindrance in getting into politics. If no one will vote for you.
Yeah, he decided to not go for mayor re-election in 1911. So instead, turned his attention to state politics.
Okay.
And he was elected in March 1917 to the Legislative Assembly.
Oh, well done. You made the right choice then.
Hurtsville for the National Party.
Hurtsville.
Don't ever join anything that's called the National Party.
It seems problematic. Also, Hurtsville. That sounds like
Hurst.
I thought you said Hurtsville. Like,
I know. I probably did.
I'm gonna take you to Hurtsville. Population U.
Here's my hoof.
Poof. Ah, my groin. Hoof to the groin.
During his time, he was a teetotal. They gave him the nickname.
Yawn.
They gave him the nickname Lemonade Lee or Lay or something. So he loved lemon parties.
Who doesn't love a lemon party? It's really good.
I don't.
There's really good, like, if you go online and look up lemon party, there's really good websites about it.
Lemonparty.org or something.
Something like that.
Just
You'll be able to find it. It's really good.
You'll like it.
If not, just search for it on Reddit. You'll be able to find it.
And if you can't find that, just look up Meat Spin. You'll be fine.
Yep, that's pretty good. Yeah.
He was detested by virtually everyone in his party.
Oh, just a politician then.
Yep. But because he was a very good speaker and he did a lot. He basically deluded a lot of people with his community work and very pious attitude.
I don't.
So at the time, in the early 1900s, they saw him as just a dick, but meaning well and a good person.
Yeah, and like the good things he did outweighed his kind of personality flaws, maybe, kind of thing.
Basically, yeah. And he switched parties a few times in his years, but he returned to the Nationalists in 1922 and was appointed Minister for Justice in the Coalition Ministry of 1922 to 1925.
There's nothing better, I think, than a politician who is so hell-bent on being a politician, they'll just move around parties to remain a politician.
Dicks, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, this coalition ministry was disastrous, and it was because it was very sectarian at the time. Which, yeah, it's a fucking nationalist party. What do you expect? Anyway, he was re-elected in 1925, but now in the opposition.
Oh.
So he's really swapping changes. So he's not very...
He doesn't seem very principled.
No. And he resigned in the September of that year, 1925, allegedly at the invitation of the Prime Minister.
I invite you to quit.
But he invited him to quit to stand for the federal seat of Barton. The ensuing campaign and its aftermath irreparably damaged his reputation.
Oh.
Basically, his opponent alleged that Lee tried to bribe him, tried to bribe him to withdraw from the contest. Lay countered the accusation and won the seat. So it did damage his reputation, but he still won the seat.
So you're telling me that a politician with a damaged reputation, proven to maybe be less than perfect, would still get people to vote for them.
But it does sound very boring. This story, they're going, politics don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking that. You're right.
Yeah, you was. I was like, but McDonald, the guy who said that he did that, even though he won the seat in the end, he sought to have the election declared void in the Court of Disputed Returns.
Oh.
Apparently. But the problem was on April the 15th, 1926, on his way to meet the Premier, J.T. Lang, he mysteriously disappeared.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. That's not the crime, though. That's just a crime that was probable. Because in late 1925, he established his own legal firm, Thomas Lay did, of Lay, Andrews & Co. He engaged in business ventures like SOS Prickly Pear Poisons Limited and Australasian Oil Feeds Limited, but about which allegations of irregularity were rife about his new business ventures.
Sorry, the dog just stood on my groin. I've got a hoof to the groin. I think I've been lame for life.
Yeah. But anyway, the critics that were basically saying about irregularity with these little ventures he did with his legal firm included not only his legal partner, who did that, but a local politician called Hyman Goldstein.
Okay.
He's called Hyman.
Yep.
Yeah. On the 3rd of September 1928, Goldstein was found dead at the foot of the cliffs
at
Coogee.
Did he slip?
Who knows? Second person who's against him to disappear or die.
Ooh.
He was defeated in the 1928 federal elections, so he left for England. But he took his mistress, Maggie Brooke,
Nice.
whose husband also died in mysterious circumstances,
Ooh.
and whom she had conducted a discreet affair with since 1922, 6 years before they left. So she's been basically doing him for 6 years.
Lee.
Yeah, so her husband died, so they fucked off. In England, he continued his involvement in business, but shady business ventures. He promoted an unrealised £1 million sweepstake in the 1931 Derby. He engaged in dubious real estate dealings and was a wartime black marketeer. The reason I say all this is because during all the research, all these people say he moved back to England. That's it. I'm reading from the Australian Dictionary of Biography. So official biographies of saying like, nah, he's a piece of shit, mate.
Nah, he did all the
No
shit.
one else is saying how much of a piece of shit he was. He was a piece of shit. So after that, now we're at the end. We're near the end. Because in 1946, Maggie Brooke was living in Wimbledon, and Thomas had his house in 5 Beaufort Gardens in London. They were converted into flats. Lee, at the time, imagined very wrongly that Brooke, his girlfriend, and a barman called John McMain Moody, M-U-D-I-E. Moody? I'm so moody. John McMain Moody. That they were lovers. Okay. He was convinced that this Brooke and this barman were lovers. So he persuaded 2 of his labourers.
He thought he was a real bar steward.
Mm-hmm. So he persuaded 2 of his labourers that Moody was a blackmailer.
Okay.
So together, they tortured and killed him.
Oh, right. So 2 things now.
The case became known as the Chalk Pit Murder because Moody's body was dumped in a Surrey chalk pit.
I feel bad for taking the piss out of the barman now.
Moody!
Very much so.
Yeah.
And also, just like imagine going up to your labourers or some people that are doing some work for you and be like, just by the way, dude over there, I think he's banging my wife. And also,
he's blackmailing me.
He's blackmailing me. So I just wanted to kill him.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, would you mind?
I'll do that, yeah.
Yeah.
But then in the Old Bailey in London, Lawrence John Smith, one of the associates, the labourers, Lee was tried. And both were sentenced to death in 1947. Obviously, the third person wasn't involved in the torture per se. Every time I say it, I don't know. Both Smith and Lay escaped the noose.
Oh.
Smith's sentence was commuted to a life imprisonment.
Oh, I thought you meant like he covered his head in like grease.
Wait, whee! I'm off now. But Thomas Lee was declared insane and sent to Broadmoor Asylum for the criminally insane. He died soon thereafter, but he is said to have been the wealthiest person ever to be a Broadmoor prisoner. And Lee's wife, the actual wife, followed him to England in 1942. And from Broadmoor, Lee wrote letters and poems and protested his innocence to his wife and children. And after his death, Louise his wife, there was a nickname, Louis, she returned to Australia. She died in New South Wales in 1956, 14 years later.
It's quite a hell of a story.
It goes everywhere, but all the politics, you could have just done the chalk pit murder and just said he was a politician, but I wanted to, like, the people that went missing, fact is literally, well, this person went missing. Or this person died mysteriously. Nothing else is talked about.
No, I was going to say the fact he's a politician is relevant because you feel like if someone else had just had 4 people that are associated with him disappear, you would be questioned. They wouldn't be able to leave the country.
But one I didn't actually mention. A group of businessmen concerned at Lee's reputation for dubious business dealings with things like SOS Prickly Pear Poisons Limited, they appointed Keith Gredor, an opponent of Lee at the time, but a former associate of his, and they hired him to investigate into the dealings. He fell overboard of a boat and drowned in mysterious circumstances. So literally, his whole history, I didn't leave that out of the story because it veers off to the side and it goes nowhere. But there are people who just disappear. He was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a horseman either.
He wasn't a horse. No, he was not a horseman.
But yeah, so lay one steaming load on me.
Load of murder. So this is a guy called David Curtis Stevenson, or DC Stevenson. I'm gonna just put this out there at the start. He isn't a politician. He wasn't a politician in and of itself, but he was very politically influential, and he definitely got people elected into office.
Oh, but fair enough. For politics, he has an interest in politics and a link in politics.
Yeah. So Stevenson was born in Houston, Texas on August 21st, 1891, and moved as a child with his family to Maysfield, Oklahoma. His parents were sharecroppers. I don't know if you know what sharecropping is. What it would be is people would work the land. So when people couldn't afford their own land, they would work the land of someone else and then split like the produce and money between the owner of the land and the people that were working the land. It seems fair enough. Apparently, it was really bad and just meant the people that worked on the land, the sharecroppers, could never work their way out of poverty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so his parents. So he was from a very poor very poor family. Apparently, his Stevenson's formal education ended in the 8th grade, and then he enrolled in the army during World War One. So apparently, he would boast of his battlefield heroics during the First World War. In reality, he spent much of the war as a recruiter in Iowa.
That's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
To be fair, that makes you a coward, not necessarily a piece of shit.
No, but it just it starts up. So I'm going to say I'm using a really.
By the way, a coward for lying, not for not going
to war. Yeah. I'm not using a lot of this, but not everything. A lot of this is from an article by Dawn Mitchell from the Indianapolis Star. It's a really good article.
Look at him citing his sources.
Well, I thought I should. But yeah, so Stevenson, I'm going to go straight to it. He murdered a lady called Madge Oberholzer.
That's quick.
I just wanted to put it out there, make her name known.
Madge Oberholzer.
Madge Oberholzer.
That's a name.
Yeah, very little formal education. He was very motivated. I think he wanted to get himself out of the poverty that he was raised in. So his rise to influence in Indiana was meteoric. When Stevenson moved to Evansville after the First World War, he took a job as a salesman for the Citizens Coal Company. And around the same time that he did this, the new, in inverted commas, Ku Klux Klan had grabbed a foothold in Indiana.
We're going with we're going Klan
in Evansville about the same time. And so it's the new Klan. So in the 1800s, the Klan was pretty big, and towards I think the end of the 1800s, and it really died down. And in the 1920s, around that time, there was a resurgence of it in certain states, in particular. And Evans was enticed to join. So Stevenson was enticed to join.
Who's Evan?
Evansville is the place, and I got
confused.
Right, yeah. So Stevenson was enticed to join. This is quite interesting as well. So he was enticed to join that, and one of the things with like the Klan was interesting with the Klan originally in the old days, they just didn't like black people. When they did the new Klan, it was decided that they hated black Jews, Catholics, and like some other groups as well. They really spread out their remit to most other people.
So this is in the 20s. This is pre-Nazism.
Yes,
but when it was during when nationalism was on the rise.
I guess they probably. I bet
basically like now.
They probably had a lot of migration, and it seemed like a good idea at the time. So he was also very outspoken about being very virtuous, because that's what the Klan preached about, being virtuous. And they were and also he was very pro prohibition. He was against drinking. In real life,
massive alcoholic.
He was a womanizer prone to fits of rage and drunk heavily, and had several run-ins with the law.
He's basically a piece of shit.
But so despite all of this, on one face he shows he wants all this virtuous stuff, and on the other hand he is an alcoholic womanizer. He rose to become the Grand Dragon of the KKK in Indiana.
That's quite a big fucking leap.
And I'm leaping over it, going over this because I think we might cover this one day, because I really think it's an interesting case.
This is one that we.
But yeah, so he got involved in the Klan. He rose through the ranks, became the Grand Dragon, which is like the leader of an area of it. I think you got the Grand Wizard is like in charge, and the Dragon is like really high up.
He's the regional.
He's basically.
The sheriff.
Yeah, and what he did as well, he then, at some point, he took his group, or like his area, like of Indiana, I think it was, out of the national group and made it into their own clan group. to kind of consolidate power and
so
have
yeah,
it as a separate group. So Stephen set up a base in Indianapolis, and he helped create the Klan's, amongst other things, state newspaper called the Fiery Cross.
Oh, that's a lovely name.
Yep.
Not awful at all.
He recruited new agents and organisers, building up news about the organisation's Protestant ministers. Protestant ministers were offered free membership, etc., etc. From July 22 to July 1923, nearly 2,000 new members joined the Klan each week. 2,000 a week for a year.
When you think of the size of America, it's not that big, but when you think of the actual amount of people,
yeah.
that's a lot of arseholes.
So after that, he became the Stevenson backed Evans in November, and he blah blah blah, and he became a force and a political force. He became the Grand Dragon of Indiana. But what happened? So this guy Evans, when he made Stevenson the Grand Dragon of Indiana, he also, like behind closed doors, made him the head of recruiting for seven other states north of the Mississippi.
Okay.
In the 1920s, the membership grew dramatically. In Indiana, membership grew to nearly 250,000, or about 1/3 of all white males in the states.
Whoa,
So in the state of Indiana,
hatred.
so about a third. I thought it was a third. I wanted to get it right. About a third of all the white males in Indiana ended up Klan members.
People.
He acquired great wealth during this time, and he had kickbacks from things when robes were sold and things like that. He got kickbacks all the time, and he made all this money. When Stevenson was appointed as the Grand Dragon of the Indiana Klan in 1923 in the 4th of July gathering in Tacoma, Indiana, more than 100,000 members and their families attended.
That's more than attend WrestleMania.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah. And what he said, this is his quote, because he was late. He turned up late. And he said, "My worthy subjects, citizens of the invisible empire, clansmen all, greetings. It grieves me to be late. The President of the United States kept me under long counselling on matters of state. Only my plea that this is the time and the place of my coronation obtained for me succeeds from his prayers for guidance." Basically, he's like, sorry I was late, but the President asked for my help.
So basically, he was lying. The President didn't do shit, did he? Did he? Is this going to be a little twist that actually the President's involved and it's a big Ku Klux Klan murder mystery?
No.
Oh.
Anyway, so that's just like, I don't want to talk forever about this because we might cover it later. But so he did that, and he was very instrumental in getting a lot of politicians elected.
Local
or Indiana statewide, because a third of white males were obviously
so he
in
basically
the group.
can
So if he
control
could,
it.
if they got his back in, then they would
So
pretty
he's
much be
literally
guaranteed
one of the most powerful people
in the
time.
state. Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So this lady, Marge Oberholtzer, and he was used to, having his way with women. He did what he wanted. So this lady, Oberholtzer, she was a 20-year-old Irvington resident and former Butler College sorority girl who served on the Teachers and Young People's Reading Circle board. She frequently socialised with Stevenson, and on March 15th, 1925, she accompanied him and two of his associates on a train trip to Chicago.
Associates?
What I've read is that she would hang about with him, but also was a bit wary of him as well at times because he could be aggressive and stuff like that.
He was an aggressive alcoholic.
Yeah.
Racist.
So it said that she might have gone willingly, or he might have forced her. He wasn't an easy man to say no to. Stevenson had been drinking heavily, as he often did, even before he got on the train. Oberholtzer admitted that she was coerced into having a couple of drinks. So I've read in other things that she turned down drinks, and they were like, "No, go on." Said 2 or 3 drinks.
Oh, go on.
Said 2 or 3 drinks. And I read as well that she was sick afterwards and things like that. Apparently, on the trip, 3 men pushed Oberholtzer into a sleeping compartment where Stevenson raped and brutalized her, viciously biting her as he held her down.
Wait, you said 3 people pushed her, so they were standing around watching this,
or at least pushed her in and shut the door so she couldn't get out. And then he apparently, while he was doing that, he said, "I love you more than any woman I've ever known."
That's a lie.
So in the morning, Stevenson was acting as if everything was normal, like nothing had happened. And maybe it wasn't the first time he'd done that kind of thing. He was used to taking what he wanted, but Madge told him she needed to go out to the drugstore to buy makeup. He let her go, but sent one of his henchmen to escort her. At the drugstore, Madge didn't buy any cosmetics. She bought a box of mercury bichloride tablets.
What does that do?
A powerful poison.
Oh. Oh,
Apparently,
not for her.
mercury was sometimes used as a treatment for external infections. It was also a pesticide, and women used it to induce abortion.
Fucking hell.
Back at the hotel, Madge swallowed 6 tablets.
Oh, no, it's for her. I thought she was going to poison him.
She attempted to take all 18, but they burned her mouth. When Stevenson realised what she had done, he had his men put her in a car, and they began the long drive back to Indianapolis. Madge lived in Irvington with her parents, George and Matilda. They were already frantic because she had not returned home from the night before. They watched all the trains coming into Union Station, but she wasn't in on any of them. While away from the house, one of Stevenson's men carried Madge through the door, up the stairs, put her on the bed, and left.
That's fucking
There's a lot more to this story that we'll cover another time in the intervening time. She finally got medical attention, but the doctor could only pump her stomach and wait to see if she recovered. There was not much he could do about her other injuries either. She had bruises from her face down to her ankles and open wounds all over her chest from being bitten.
This is bad. This is really
Doctor
bad.
John K. Kingsbury would later testify that the wounds appeared to have been made by human teeth.
Oh, fucking hell.
As Madge teetered between life and death, her parents had the lawyer meticulously write down every word of her story. The lawyer, Asa Smith, took the statement to Marion County prosecutor William Remy. Madge died almost a month later.
No. Oh, that sucks.
Kingsbury, the Oberholzer family doctor, testified during coroner's inquest that while trying to treat Oberholzer, she confided in him that she was about to use Stevenson's pearl-handled revolver to kill him while he slept. But in her mind, she felt it might bring disgrace on her family. So she decided not to. She then walked up to a mirror in a room, pointed the muzzle of the revolver to her temple and started to pull the trigger. She changed her mind when she heard someone walk into the room. However, her dying declaration states she took the gun not to kill Stevenson, but to kill myself, then in Stevenson's presence. Then I decided to try and get poison and take it in order to save my mother from disgrace. I knew it'd take longer with the mercury tablets to kill me. So she said, in a dying declaration, she recounted, Stevenson took a hold of the bottom of my dress and pulled it up over my head. I tried to fight, but was weak and unsteady. Stevenson took a hold of my 2 hands and held them. He chewed me all over my body, bit my neck and face, chewing my tongue, and chewed my breasts until they bled. My back, my legs, my ankles mutilated me all over my body.
Your last story was actually quite funny.
Yeah, this is horrible.
This is...
So Stevenson's trial was moved to Hamilton County, took place in Noblesville late in October and in the first half of November of 1925. Stevenson himself didn't testify. Prosecutor Remy brought in Madge's mother and Dr. Kingsbury, both of whom described the extent of her injuries. She had a deep bite mark on her cheek and many more down her torso. A key argument for the defence was that Madge had taken her own life. So the defence was like she killed herself. Yeah. She bought the poison and took it voluntarily in secret. The prosecution brought in medical witness who said Madge may have died from an infection from the bites that she endured. If she had died from the poison, they said, she would have had a better chance of survival had Stephen taken her to a doctor to Hammond instead of delaying treatment for 5 crucial hours. On November the 14th, 1925, after 6 hours of deliberation, a jury of 12 men composed of 10 farmers, a manager of gas company office and a truck driver found Stevenson guilty of murder in the second degree. Stevenson's 2 bodyguards were acquitted. A week later, Stevenson was on his way to the Indiana State Prison facing a life sentence. So because even though he didn't kill her kind of outright, because of what he did,
it was bad enough.
It was bad enough, and like they go, well, yeah, maybe the infections as well as everything else.
Good.
But what's interesting in this as well, I think, like Stevenson expected he'd probably be pardoned by his friend Governor Ed Jackson because Stevenson had got elected, and he'd got an awful lot of people elected, and he'd always got something in return. They'd all signed a contract pledging loyalty to him. So when he got found guilty, Stevens had kept all of these, and when he realised there'd be no pardon, he began releasing these documents to the press and to a grand jury that had been impaneled after his trial to investigate political corruption in the state. While in prison, Stevenson implicated Jackson in a bribery scheme. While Jackson was the Secretary of State, he and Stevenson offered the then Governor Warren McRae $10,000 to appoint a Klansman as prosecutor. In exchange, the future prosecutor would drop mail fraud charges against McRae. McRae refused and served time in prison on the mail fraud charges. Jackson was tried on charges of bribery but was acquitted under the state's statute of limitation. But not only that, so it brought down some people, but it really had a massive impact on bringing down the second wave of the Klan.
That's
because
brilliant.
It outed them as not these moral
vanguards.
Actual pieces of shit. So Stevenson served 25 years in prison, was granted parole, but violated the terms of it within a year and was sent back to prison. In 1956, he was released again, this time for good. He died in 1964 at the age of 74 in Johnson City, Tennessee, and Madge Oberholzer was buried in Memorial Park Cemetery. This was also from the Indy Star I got this from.
This is one I would like to cover. All these little like true crime tapas things we do, whether it's crimes in politics, crimes in movies, crimes in not crimes in children, killer kids, whatever it is. It just proves that in all walks of society, whether you're young, old, white, black, rich or poor, there are pieces of shit in every fucking corner of this world.
Yeah. Most people are good, but there's shits everywhere.
And yeah, so
find us on all the socials.
Go on to our
Pod.
Go to our website, www.echoonpod.com. You can see little funky biographies of us with lovely pictures. Go on Instagram, follow us, tweet us, review us, leave us 5-star reviews. And thank you everyone for listening. Oh, I do have to I got an email while we were recording this episode
Cool.
from Chartable, who are the people that send you occasional things going, oh, here's how you're doing on the charts in this country. It's all mainly bullshit. But this one, they keep sending me the one for Korea.
Oh, right.
And this one, in November the 23rd, we were peaked at number 36 in the charts.
In Korea.
In Korea. And that was obviously when I said the 23rd of November. Now we're at the 2nd of December. And we're no longer in the charts.
Oh, wonderful.
So I'm thinking these charts literally have 1 or 2 people in Korea registered.
Yeah.
So it's like one person listens to us, you're number 36. That person doesn't listen to the next one. You're fucked. So we're not very big in Korea.
No. Or big Japan.
Or big in Japan. Thank you everyone for listening.
I've been Chris.
I've been Christian.
It's been Echo on a True Crime Podcast.
Have fun.
Bye.